Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today in DDCDP 23, the JavaScript day is 7th, and we will study Object Oriented Javascript, what are classes and inheritance in a practical fun way. So, Object Oriented JavaScript or maybe Object Oriented programming in any language is a way to efficiently write code. It's a way of writing code. So we will basically cover all those topics which will help you understand what Object Oriented JavaScript is. What we will cover, what we will make actually, this is a very simple example. So each div here is an absolutely position div, and some of them have borders, some of them have different background colors. So we will study actually Object Oriented JavaScript using making these divs. So this is an object, this is an object, this is an object, this is an object, and this is an object. So let's start. We'll make something like this so that you understand what actually objects are and how can we use those objects in our day-to-day lives. And then at the end I have a surprise for you. You have been creating carousels and slideshows yourself in this course, but there is something fascinating at the end of the lecture, so just stay tuned. Okay, let's start. I will create a file. Just let us create some basic files. So objects.html, and then we have objects.js and objects.css, and we'll just link the JavaScript. Objects.js and okay, we are almost ready to get going. So in objects.js we write our JavaScript, and then we have the HTML page and the CSS page. Okay, let us create a simple object literal which you have been studying so far. So for example, this is the first div and I want this as an object. Okay, let us give create two wrappers divs. So in HTML I will just create two div. ID is equal to wrapper 1, and then you have another div which is div ID is equal to wrapper 2. So we will make certain divs and then add them as to these wrapper 1 and 2 via JavaScript. Okay, so let us create an object. So const div1 equals, and this is known as object literal, right? So we'll have x position colon maybe 200 pixels, comma y position maybe 400 pixels. And why is it showing some error? Because this is string, so we will encapsulate it inside double or single strings. So I want the x position of this div to be 200 pixels, y position to be 400 pixels, right? And maybe div parent div you can call or anything. So parent div colon is also going to be a string of wrapper 1. So we will create a div, we will create div and attach it to this parent div, which is actually wrapper 1. The ID is wrapper 1, right? Then we have we can create an element. So new div, the div which we will create, okay, it is going to be document dot create element. And which element we are going to create? A div. Is this fine? So okay, so right now this is technically, this is known as a property. X is a property inside this object and it has a value of 200 pixels. Y is this, parent is wrapper. So all of these are properties actually, okay? Because but we can have methods or functions also inside the object. So what actually will happen inside functions or methods? So inside an object, if it is a function, it is known as method. So for example, we have create div or maybe draw div. This is a function, okay? So there is, we can call it draw div and it is going to be a function like this, just normal function. So these two, x, y, parent div and new div, these are properties because these are variables inside the object, and draw div is a function, so we will call it method, okay? So what draw div will do, it will actually do some functionality, it will have some functionality. So for example, if x is this, y is this, parent div this, new div is a, I want to add a class, for example, let us add that class dot box. For now let us have width 100 pixel. This is CSS, okay? Height 100 pixel, and we have wrapper 1. We will make it position absolute. So once you make something position absolute, what do you do? Make the parent of it relative. So we have two divs, wrapper 1 and wrapper 2. So we will make it position relative. Similarly, wrapper 2 position relative, right? So here in the JavaScript object, we already have created a div. Now I want to add this box class to this div. So that's the functionality which we need to give. So we can do that inside this draw div function, right? So what we can do is, this is the new div we have created, document.create element div, right?
Yes.
So what we can do is new div dot, let me remove this from now. So new div dot class list dot add, and what we will give box, right? But new div is nothing here. Inside the object, this new div means nothing, maybe some other variable, but at least not this one. So inside the object, if you have to refer to the property of it or a method, we use it with the this keyword. So what we will do is this dot new div. It means this variable, now this property, we have to reference it with this dot, otherwise it won't be referencing this thing at least. Okay, so if you have to, for example, if I have to access use the x now, so what I will do, this dot x. For example, if I have to add something here, it will be this dot x. So what we have done is this dot new div dot class list dot add. Is this okay, or is it L is capital? Okay, so this dot new div dot class list dot add box. So draw function will, if you run this function, this is the definition, so you will always have to run functions or methods. So if we run this, it will add a class of box, right? Also, what is going to be the position of it, x and y? This is the position absolute coordinates actually. So I also want to add those coordinates to this div. So what I will do, this dot new div dot style. Do you remember what the style keyword does? Key dot left is equal to so we have to refer this class, so it will be this dot x Javas. Good. This dot new div the style dot top equals this dot y Javas. Well done. So we have given the left and top properties from these ones to this. One more thing we need to do, we have created a div but we haven't assigned any parent to it. I mean, we need to attach the newly created div to some parent because it will be in the memory then. So we can do that. This is the parent, div is wrapper1. So what we can do, but first we have to select this element. This is ID of the, so first we will select the element. So what it is going to be, let parent is equal to document dot get elements, get element by ID, and what the ID is going to be, Shabas, wrapper1, but it's a variable here, so this dot, well done, this dot parent div. So whatever is the parent div, it will be the one we will be selecting. So this dot parent div, it can be wrapper1, but basically because we have a variable for it, so we have to access it by, so this dot parent div, the document dot get element by ID, this dot parent div will make a variable which is actually that div where this new div will be added as a child. So now we will use parent dot, let us parent, or maybe let us call it container, right? So let container is equal to this, and container dot append child or append will also work. So what is going to be added to this, this dot new div, so this dot new div, that's it. Now the object is ready, and let us give some background color to the box so that we know what's the background color also. On dash color, some beautiful this one. Okay, so do you think if I just open the object.html, it will be showing this, any box is, the box is not visible here. Why? because exactly we are not doing anything with the object, right? It is just for now a blueprint. So what we can do is we have to actually run this method, actually this draw diff. Only then will be so div1 is the object, right? And if we have to access this function, what we will do? div1 dot, even VS Code lets you know what actually are the suggestions. Okay, so we have to run draw diff function. It will do a lot of stuff for us. What else do we need to have with it? Parenthesis, because it's a method. That's it. So div1 dot draw diff, and if we now access this, so we have a div here, right? So for example, what is actually the purpose of creating objects? You have all the logic inside this object. Okay, now you want somebody to just use this one line of code and this div will be created. He doesn't know about position absolute, adding background colors and all. You just will have to tell that, for example, junior developer, create an object, create a variable, and just run the draw function, and it will do it for him. Just one line of code. Okay, now for example, we need to have another div. This is my question, what we will do? We right now have just we have, for example, we need to have another div with some other x and y positions. What we will do? Shavas, let me know. We will create a new object. So let us create a new object here, and we will call it div2, and let us change its positions to 100 and y is say 200, and we will attach it to wrapper 1 as well, and that's it. Nothing else is needed. So what now we will do is div2. So div2 dot draw div, and that's it. Maybe we need to change the background color to some where is that background color? But it's in CSS. We are not going to change anything in CSS, so let's do it. So this is another div now, right? What if you need to have another div? So we will create another object. Do you think this is the right approach? Though we are able to, if for example we have to create 100 divs, we will create 100 objects. So whenever you are repeating something uselessly in any programming language, you have to realize in your mind that there is going to be a better way of doing it. Repetition is never advised or encouraged, and it is not even maintainable. For example, if you have to change something, you will have to change 100 objects, right? So this is not the way to do. No, not even loop, but we will do it the better way.
We can create an object with new keyword.
Well done. Very good. So we will redo all this using what is known as constructors or factory functions or whatever, right? So let us delete the one object and we will change it to, basically this is 100% correct but not maintainable.
Yes, sir.
We have objects, the end result is going to be objects, but a function we will create known as constructor functions, which will create these objects for us.
Yes.
Technically those functions will create these objects for us, right? We won't be doing it ourselves. So let us do it now. Let me delete the second one for now. Just for reference, I will leave the first one. So what are constructor functions or factory functions? They are also called, but mainly they are called constructor functions, right? So we will create a function, just this, and we will make it, for example, div maker. We will make it name it div maker, okay? And this is just normal function like this. Now there is one difference with the naming convention, because these are known as constructor functions. It will create objects for us, okay? So we will have the first one capitalized like this. So normally if you see something like this in code, just realize that this is not going to be a normal function. This is going to be a function which creates objects for us, okay? So in JavaScript object oriented programming, these functions will create objects for us. The one which we have manually created here, now this function will create these objects for us, right? Okay, so what this function will do is, we have an X property, 200 pixel, Y is this, right? So we will convert it into this. So if you need to save something into a property here, so we will call it this dot x, not just x, okay? So this dot x is equal to 200 pixel. This dot y equals 400 pixel, right? And the parent div is going to be this. So let me know what should be the parent div. This dot parent div is equal to wrapper 1. And this dot new div, this dot new div equals document dot create element div. So we'll just copy this one quickly. Like this. So now we have this dot x, this dot y, this dot parent div, this dot new div, and almost the same stuff, right? And also we have a function which we will do it a bit later, but right now if I create a new div, maybe I will call it div 2 for now. So div 2 is equal to, this is now a blueprint. Blueprint means like you want your objects to be like this one. So with the new keyword, new div maker, we will always run new with div maker, otherwise it will not create objects. So what this new does, it creates an object for us. And if I console.log div2, now what it will be? It will be an object with these 4 properties for now, these one, okay? So if I go to console, it has a div maker object and it has new div, these 4 properties, okay? And we are going to come to what prototype is, but for now these 4 are the properties. So far so good. The object already has been created, but the functionality which creates us the div is still not there. So what we can do is, we can just copy this function div draw div, in which we just added the box class, left and top positions, and then we had a container which will append the child to. So we'll just copy this function for now. So inside the div maker function, we can create another one which is then going to be, So this dot create div, no, draw div, what it was, we have named it draw div. So this dot draw div equals the same function. Okay, so what it will do, this dot new, it will just add the class, the same stuff actually, and we have the container which is this one, the parent div. So it is doing actually the same stuff which we were previously doing. We don't need to change anything else to this. Okay, so again this dot draw div, we have created the new div maker. Now if we go to the console again, so now it will show you can see it has an F with it. It means it has now a function also, and the function is actually a method. Inside the object it is known as a method. So what this new keyword has done for us, it has created an object with the same structure which was previously with us. So div2 is now an object, and div2 dot was the draw div, and that's it. Div2 dot draw div. So it has hopefully created a div for us. If you go to elements, we have two. Why is here only one? Anybody? Because the left and top properties are the same, that's why they are overlapping each other. So what it has done its work, it has done its task, the function draw div, but it is overlapping. So what we can do is, if you see in the function, this function div maker, these are hard coded values. This dot x is equal to this. Are these? Do you agree?
Yes.
But what if we pass two variables to it, left and top? So in that case we can make these dynamic. The 200 and 400 will be dynamic. So we can then use this dot x is equal to left, whatever is passed, left plus we need to concatenate it, right? Px plus px means because this will be a number, so px will be added, concatenated with it. Similarly, top plus px, right? So now it is dynamic. What change we need to do here now? Pass two variables. Okay, so for example this one will be 300 and 500. Now you will see it in a different position. Now you have two separate. Okay, now if I need to have a third div, what I will need to do?
Just call this function again and change the
Exactly. So this function actually div3, we will call it div3 is equal to new div maker. Say this is going to be 500 and 500. Now what do you expect? Another div. It is div3. Why is it not doing it? We haven't called it yet. The draw. So div3 dot draw div. Now we have another one. So similarly, now each div is basically an object, right? And how is that object created for us? Using this constructor function, right? So that's how object oriented programming works in JavaScript. Now there is a glitch, there is still a caveat in this, and that is, let us examine these two, div2 and div3. If I console.log div3 also, we already are consoling logging div2 and div3. Let us examine both. and if I open inspect console, so these are two, this one is the third one, this one is the, so both look exactly the same, just x and y are different because we have passed different parameters to this. So draw div, and so let us examine the draw div function right now, method. Both of the objects have draw div, right? So div2 dot draw div. I'm not going to call it, I'm just comparing if both of these are equal. Div3 dot draw div, and let us wrap it inside console.log. So console.log, this console.log div2.draw div is equal to div3.draw div, right? I'm just going to compare if these two functions are the same in both objects, because visually if you see this is one function draw div and it should be equal. So your answer I'm expecting is, should it be yes or no, true or false? Div all the spelling is okay. What's the answer? Why? Functions both have the same functions. If you see, this is draw the same function and this is also the same function, but they are not equal. JavaScript considers these as different functions. Okay, so imagine if we have, say these are just two right now. If you have 100 or 1000 divs from the same object, all these functions internally are different, though they look the same, though they function exactly the same, but they are different. So we should do it a bit differently. Okay, and that's where the prototypes come in, right? So we have defined this dot draw div inside the object, this div maker object. Do you agree? But we won't do it here. We won't define this function inside the div maker function. What we will do is we will change it to div maker dot prototype dot draw div is equal to that function. We are defining the same function now, but with this syntax: div maker, the name of the function, dot prototype dot draw div, right? And the rest of the code won't change. Just we needed to define this method, and it will be draw div, right? But outside this function with this syntax: div maker dot prototype dot draw div. No, we don't need to change any of the code. It still will work. This function will now still be in part of this div maker function, which will create the same object for us. But now we have used the prototype. So if I go to those, we are also already, now we don't see, we just see the properties here, the objects, sorry, the normal variables inside the, but we are not seeing that function draw div. So now if we go to the prototype, here you will see the draw div. Similarly, if I go to the second one, we don't see any function here, but if you go to the prototype, Here we see draw div. So what do you deduce from it? Prototype is an object actually in JavaScript, which is part of any object in JavaScript. This is built into JavaScript, and if you use this syntax, div maker dot prototype dot draw div, so it adds this function to the prototype object, not directly to this like we previously were doing. So next, the functionality doesn't change at all, it's working now, but here we were comparing console.log div2.draw div is equal to div3.draw div. If it is equal, then it should output true and false. Previously it was outputting false, they were not equal. Now if you see, it's outputting true, means now both the objects have the same function method technically, and it saves you memory also. So for example, if you have even 1 million objects on this page, all of them will have the same function, saving you a lot of memory and all that. So you have to use the methods as a prototype in JavaScript objects, right? So any additional methods will be added via prototype, right? And prototype is very let us create, just for example, we will create an array, okay? Const new array equals 1 2 something like this, right? So now if I new array dot, so it shows me a lot of these methods, okay? But if I just console.log say new array, what it should show me, it's an array, right? It has these elements and the length is 4. Then it has a prototype. Everything in JavaScript is object. So what it shows us, it's just a variable, but here we have a prototype and it shows the type as array. So if I click on this, here you will see all the functions. So what it actually does is, the prototype, if you don't have any direct methods on an object, but if there are methods on the prototype of an object, you can access those. So that's why that variable was array, that's why its type is prototype is array, and here we can access all the methods here. Got it? So is this clear what we have done? We have created, let us revise, we have created a function which is div maker. It has left and top properties. So these are the properties actually, the x, y, and the parent div is this. What if we make it dynamic also? We will have to create here parent, we will call it parent div or anything. So here what we will use then, parent div. Now we have to make a change inside here. So wrapper 1, say the other one is wrapper 2, and if we create another one, div 4, and it will be say 700, one. Now you just need to create new objects and call the draw method on it. Is this fine? So all of these will be dynamically attached to these parents, because here we have set it up as this. Is this all clear? So if we go to, we have another one here. Any questions so far? So let me just revise it for 2 minutes again, and then we will move on to classes. Okay? So what we did, we created a function. This is known as constructor function, and the name is div maker. 3 variables are passed into it: left, top, and parent div. Then we fix the local variables, this dot x, this dot y, and this dot parent div. So this is being set to these 3 values which we are passing into it, right? Then we have the this dot new div. We create a new div and store it as a local variable as well, and it is document dot create element by create element and div. Then we have a prototype draw div function. Div maker dot prototype dot draw div. Previously we were making that method inside the object, but as we examined, all the new instances have the same function, but they are not equal. So we needed to have a way of the same function inside objects. So div maker dot prototype dot draw or div is the function. It just adds a class of box and then assigns the left and top properties, and we have a container which is this dot parent div, and container dot append child this dot new div. Simple, which you already have learned. And we are using this because this is going to be this is refers to the object which we will be creating. So div 2, div 3, div 4, new div maker, these are all dynamic values, and div 2, div 3, div 4, this code in this is actually these objects. This is in this is div 2, this in this is div 3, this in this. We will have a separate class on this hopefully tomorrow, but at least if a new object is created with a new constructor function, this new keyword, that this means this object. Okay, so div 2 dot draw, we just have used those functions and they create these divs for us. That's it. Now you just initially we just created this div 1 object manually. Now just these 2 lines of code, these lines of code create these functions, these objects for us. Got it? So if you have even 100 objects, this constructor function will be used to create those objects. You don't need to manually do this. So what we can do is we will delete this object now. This is not the way out. That was good for the concept, but this is just the function. You create a blueprint. Blueprint means something you need to show that my objects will be of this type, and then those are used. You can call them as factory or machines or whatever. So these are machines for you to create objects, and then you use those objects to do stuff. Is this fine? I think we need to have a break, and we'll continue with classes after the break. Come after the break. So in the first part of this lecture, we have created a constructor function to create objects for us, which is div maker, and it lets us if I just preview it. So every div here is actually an object which we have created. These are all, this is one object, this is another, and this is another. Now we are going to create do the same with classes in JavaScript. So actually classes in other languages like Java and PHP and other languages, the object oriented code is done via those classes, but historically in JavaScript prior to 2015 or maybe 16, the object oriented way of doing things was the one we studied in the first part of this lecture. But afterwards with ES6 and JavaScript 2015, we can now create classes, but behind the scenes those classes do the same stuff which we already have studied today. So let's do it the classes way now. I will create 3 files, just like here we have objects. I will create, or let me just copy and paste them so that we can quickly name it classes.html and change it to classes.css. We'll leave the div IDs like this and we'll turn it into classes.js, and we will create objects.copy and paste, and we will call it classes.js. And we will also do this. We are not going to change any CSS or HTML. We will just focus on classes.js. So we will have to change something inside this file. Okay, I will leave things here so that we can quickly copy things from here and paste into the class. So right now, before the break, we created a div maker function. It is known as a constructor function, which creates classes for us. Now we will use the same, but a bit differently, using the classes in JavaScript. So the way we do it is class and then the name of class. So whatever we will make it div maker also. The name of the class will be div maker. That's it. And this. Now we will have to use all the code inside here. So this dot x is equal to left plus tx. For example, if we just have a property here, so we will just use x equals say 200 pixels. We will first do it this way, right? So x is equal to this, y is equal to 200 pixels. So just like the objects or this function has this, we can just create x and y. There won't be any x, this dot with it. To just the x and y means the properties of this class or the variables, you can say, or they are also called class variables in other languages probably. So you can call them x and y or class variables or something like this. Okay, then we have parent div is equal to parent div. So parent div is equal to, say for example, wrapper1 is the ID. And for functions we have new div also. So new div equals document.createElement div. We'll just copy this one. Right? Now this class, this code has 4 properties: x, y, new div and parent. And to create a method, so it's so simple. This is, if you remember, div maker.prototype.draw div was a function. So we'll copy the same code here for now, and we'll create a function here, in the class, inside the class. We'll call it draw div. Draw div is going to be a function. Sorry, we are doing it in the wrong place. Inside the class here. Draw div is a function like this, and we will just move all the code here. We are not going to change anything. So dot div is a function inside the class, and this dot new, if you have to access this, so it will be the same, this dot new div. Similarly, y, this dot new div, this dot new div, this dot container, container dot, so it is going to be this dot parent div. So all the variables or properties which you are going to access inside a function in a class, the same this dot that. Got it? So we are not going to change anything inside this function. So let us repeat the code again. Class div maker, it has these 4 properties and 1 method, right? So that's the whole class. Now if for now, because the function name and they are the same, we will or let us now delete or comment out all the code here. Okay, so class div maker is now a blueprint, or objects will be derived from this class. Okay, so what are your expectations now? If I create a new div, const div 1 is equal to new sim div maker, that's it, and with empty brackets like this. So div 1 is equal to div maker. Okay, if I console.log div 1 now, just to see how the object looks like. So again, this is the class, this is the blueprint, this is the sample or whatever, and this is now the object. Okay, so I am just now console.logging that div 1 which is an object, and if I go to classes.html and then to inspect console, this is div maker, this is the console.log output, and if you see, it has 4 properties. It has 4 properties. We don't see the method here, where it will be. This function which we have defined inside the object draw div, inside the class draw, it doesn't appear here. New div, these are the 4 properties but not the method. So where it will be? Inside the prototype. Well done. So here you can see the draw div. So previously we were explicitly adding the method to dot prototype dot, so that we add it to the prototype, but classes automatically does do that for us. Got it? So we don't need to specify the prototype, they will already be added to the prototype. Is this clear? So now div 1 is this and console.log this, but now we need to call this draw div so that all this styling is added to it, right? So what it will be, div 1 dot draw div, and that's it. Hopefully if I preview it again, here we have one div now. So exactly the same output, but now we're using the classes. So classes are just they say classes is syntactic sugar for the objects we used to create previously in JavaScript using the constructor functions. So let me repeat, class div maker, the same stuff, and if you have to access these variables, you in the method you will have to specify this. Now this is not dynamic. Do you agree? Because we have hard coded the x and y values as well as the parent div. So we need to make it dynamic so that while creating objects we can specify these values like we did in the previous lecture. So for that purpose there is a built-in function, and it should always and it must always be called this. So it is known as constructor. Every class has a function which is known as constructor, what constructor does is it should always be inside a class, and if you need to run some code while the object is created, for example here div1 is equal to new div maker, so we want to create an object here, but with the creation we want some code to run immediately without our involvement, so we will specify that code inside the constructor. Okay, so constructor is actually a function or a method, you can say. It is run when you instantiate, it's known as instantiating, when you instantiate a class, when you create an object of a class. So this is normal function, we can pass parameters here, so left, top and parent, parent element, whatever. Okay, so this constructor now will have three parameters, left, top and parent element, right? So these properties we can specify now inside here inside the constructor. So again this is very easy, we can say this dot x is equal to whatever is passed to it, so left plus px, because we will specify that this dot y is equal to top plus px, and this dot we have named it as parent div, so this dot parent div equals parent element, whatever is passed to the parent element, right? So these are the three values we need to set while inside the constructor. It's a function which is automatically called, we won't call it. Once you issue the new keyword, constructor will automatically be called for you. So whatever code you need to run automatically while an object is being created, you have to place that code inside the constructor. Okay, so now these elements are redundant, we need to delete them, and we also need to create a new div, so we can make it inside here. Yeah, once the constructor is called, this will be created. So this dot new div is equal to document dot create element div. Okay, got it? Now here in the class, once we are creating an instance of the class new div maker, what are you now expecting? We'll pass the dynamic values here. So for example 100, 200 and wrapper 1, so that it is inside this, and then we will, like we have done already, drop div. So now this is 100, 100. If for example I specify 0, 0, what it will be? A new one we will create, right? Let us quickly create a new object. It will be 0 and 0. So where do you expect this one to be? Div 2, top left. Div 2, new div. Good. And anybody, why is this space still? Is 0, 0, why is this so? Because we haven't.
Due to a border box. Padding in margin 0.
Yeah, default margins are 0. So we need to specify in CSS all reset CSS which is
0 or
0 padding 0. So now it's the CSS class, not this. Okay, so is this clear? Exactly 100% of what we did previously we have achieved that via classes now. Simple. Let me repeat: class keyword and then the name of the class, and constructor is the function which needs to run, which is always run actually once you the new object is being created. So if you need to have some code which immediately should be there, it should always go to the constructor. Here we are specifying this dot x means the x variable, this is dot y, this is this dot parent, there is this, whatever we are going to pass into it, this parent element, and then we are creating a new div, and here in the function draw div we are assigning that new div some classes, left and right, coordinates, and the container is the parent div, and we are appending it as a child. So it's a way of creating divs right now, absolute divs position. Then we are calling those, and we only need these two lines to create a div now. So one of the advantages is, for example, somebody asks you to create a program for us so that we can be able to create position absolute divs. They don't know about anything else. So what you will let them know to create a new div maker. For example, this is known as libraries or frameworks, for example. So they don't need to know all the logic here. What they need to know is just they will need to learn this stuff. You will teach them, train them that create a new div maker object and pass it 3 parameters. That's it, and the position absolute div will be automatically created for you. Got it? That's why, for example, some developers spend nights doing this logic, and others just use it. They are known as libraries or frameworks. Okay, we don't need to know the inner workings of what this div maker does. It has been done for me, for example. I will just use it. Got it? Okay. Now we will switch to inheritance. What is inheritance? Okay. So for example, some of the functionality has changed. There is a requirement, and we need to have a border on one of the divs. You have been asked by the client that we also need, on some divs we need borders. On some divs we need borders. So what you can do is, you will create a new class, for example. This is a new class. Okay? And we will copy paste it, right? Because we don't want to disturb initial functionality, so we have copied and pasted the new class, and we will change the name to with borders, right? So class this, and the rest of the functionality is 100% the same, but we will create one new method. We already have draw div. We will create the method name is add border. Okay, yeah, add borders, and this add borders. So what this will do, we already have new div, so we'll just copy, or rather just type it, this dot new div dot style dot border equals, say for example, 5 pixel solid and black. What is this? Add borders is just a new function, and this dot new div dot style dot border is equal to 5 pixels. 5 pixels solid black. Now this is a new class. Its name is div maker with borders, right? So we will create a new div. Const div 3 is equal to new this class, right, with borders, and it will have some 300 comma 200 comma wrapper 1. That's it. The next thing is, we will div 3 dot draw div, and then we have another function also now. So div 3 dot add borders. That's it. Now this hopefully will, once this function is run, it will add border to the new div. This one. You can see now we have borders around the div. But do you think this is the right way? Because we have copied the class. We have copied the class just for one function, extra function, and the rest of the functionality is the same. So for example, if somebody comes again with some more functionality, so we will keep on copying the classes, and this is not the way out. Just that common sense shows that this should not be the way out. There has to be a better way, right? So now we will go to into what inheritance in classes is, and one of the advantages of object oriented JavaScript or any other language is that there is always inheritance, right? So this is not the way to make a class, to copy a class and then add a function into it, right? So what we can do is we will create this class and okay, so what we will do is we will create the same class which we have copied from it, but delete all the code in it, inside it, all the repetitive code. Okay, so these two all the stuff has gone out of this class div make with borders, and we have just added the extra, left the extra method we have added in this one, but here you need to specify extends the parent class. So what is it going to be? Div maker. So what this means is we have created a new class which extends the div maker class. It's div D capital. Okay, so this means that we will have all the functionality of this class div maker, which is the parent, but still we are now going to have a new class, and that functionality is, the new functionality is add borders. So it means that we can still access all these properties in the new class, but with an additional functionality of add borders. Now if we div3 is equal to new div maker with borders, this and this, so it will still be working hopefully. Maybe maker with borders, div maker with borders, what's the problem? Let us now delete all this code. Okay, okay, so the same code is running fine. Don't know why it was not working previously. Okay, so if I now need to so what we have done, we have created a new class and it extends the functionality of the div maker class. So all the properties and methods of div maker will be applicable in this, but if there is something new, for example this one, we can add that into this function, sorry, in this class. If I just console.log div3, which is an instance of this class, so let us do that. Console.log div3, which is the instance or object of this. Let us check it. So here it is. It has all the properties. You can see this class doesn't have these properties. If I go back, this is the class div maker with borders. This is a class, but it doesn't have all those 4 properties, but in console it shows all those because it is inheriting itself from the div maker, and these are part of the div maker. Another change here is the prototype is shown as div maker. What does this mean? That its parent is its prototype. If you click on it, so it has its own add borders, and then if you go to the prototype of its parent, then we see the .div and all the functions which are on the parent. So this is known as prototype change. You can Google about it. Maybe there are many in classes inheriting others, right? So in each of the prototype, the parent will be shown. So
the div maker is here a parent.
Yeah, it's its parent. So let us now create another class Now there is a requirement, for example, client says that I need borders also, but I need to specify the background color also, so that each div has its own background color. Now the functionality is we need to have extra functionality where we need to have borders but the background color also. So we will create another class, right? Class, let us call it div maker with borders and BG, for example, background, right? This is the class. So another way is we can copy again this class and then add our own function, but this is extends is what we need. Extends, which class should it extend so that it has the borders functionality also? The parent, the grandparent, or this one? This one with borders. Now this third class with BG, it extends the second one, means the parent, not the grandparent. So it will have the functionality of the second one also and the first one also. Good. Now here we need to specify the function. So what it will be? For example, add BG is a function, and here we just need to add this dot new div new, and this is so powerful because the parent class has this functionality of new div, or this property of new div, so we can access it inside any of the child classes. So this dot new div dot style dot background dash color, so it will be color equals, for example, purple. Now any class which we draw from, extend from this, I mean any object which is created from this will have this add BG function method, right? So let us do that now. Const div 5 equals new, the name of the class is this one, right? And then div 5 dot draw div, this function should be called, then div 5 dot add borders should be called, and then div 5 dot BG add BG should be called. We have forgotten one thing. What's that? Here the parameters. Yeah, so let us do that now. 150 and wrapper 1. What are you expecting now? A new div with a purple background and borders also. So that's it. This has been achieved via the third type of class we have created, inheritance. Now if I console.log div 5, which is the object of this class, so console.log div 5. So what do you expect of the prototypes of this? The first one will be with border, then div maker, and then the object. This is prototypal chain. So go to console. This is the BG. Here it has all the 4 main properties of the main class, but the prototype shows div maker with borders because this is the BG one. So the prototype is borders with border one. Then it has its own function add BG constructor, and the prototype is div maker. And then if you go to its prototype, it will have that draw div and function, which is in the grandparent. And if you go even further, it will have all the properties of the last object, like toString and something like that. So that's the last one. Okay, one more thing. If we see if you check the add bg method in the div maker with border bg class, this is hard coded. This is hard coded. What we need to have is some sort of variable. So bg color should be the variable, right? But it should be actually like this. This is the class border bg. Remember, this is the class border bg. So what we can do is bg color equals right now purple, for example. So we will change it to this dot bg color now. But this again is hard coded here. This is the property inside this class, and it is hard coded here. We need to specify something so that when this class is instantiated, the object is created out of it, we can pass this variable. So we will create a constructor. So the constructor should have this dot bg color equals whatever is passed to it, bg color. So color like this, and we will delete this one. So now when the class is created, we will have to pass bg color also. But as you know, in the initial one, in the constructor we have left top and parent element also. We need to specify those also with the, so we will add those here as well. What are they? Top, left, parent element, and bg color, right? So we already have tackled these three, and this is the new one, and we have specified it here. So now you will see an error. The third, div 5 is new. This now we need to have, for example, green passed into it, so that once the class is created, we have a background color also, right? But now you will see an error in console. And the error is uncaught reference error. Must call super constructor. Must call super constructor in derived class, means in child class, before accessing this. So what does this mean is, in this class we have a constructor having these three parameters from the parent, and this one is the new one. So this is must call, otherwise you will, so that the parent constructor is also called. So again, this super function has to be called must if you have to change the constructor of the class which is getting derived from the parent. So top, left, and parent element, these three should be called top, left, and parent element. First you will call super, and then you can add your own property, right? So super is very important to call. Why do we call it? So that the constructor of the parent classes is also called. Now you can see we have a green we have a green div. If we create another one, for example div 6, const div 6 equals new, which class? Div maker with bg, and we will have some 50, 90, wrapper 1, and the last one is bg color, so yellow, for example. We have called this. Now div 6 dot draw div This is one function to call. Then div6 dot add borders, and then div6 dot add bg. That's it. So hopefully we'll have another div and with a yellow background. This is fine. Now your role is, for example, you have now taught your junior developers, in order to create a div, you just need to run these lines of code. They don't need to know anything about all this, right? Okay, there can be some improvement we can bring. So this is sort of repetitive code again, these 3 lines. If we, in each of the method, starting from the main function, this is draw div, if we at the end of the code run return this, it means once this function is run, this object will be returned. This object will be returned. So we will add it to the draw div also. In the div maker with borders class, in the add borders function, at the end we will return this, like this. And in the add bg function also, at the end we will return this. So what it will let us do, it will here, for example, div6.draw div, it is known as method chaining. What? Method chaining. You might have seen it in code before. So div6.draw div dot add borders dot add bg. Got it? So rather than writing all this on its own line and mentioning div6 again and again, we will just specify div6 dot draw div dot add borders dot add bg. Just in one line, all that is accomplished, because this will return the same object. So the object has this method, it will return the same object, it has this method, right? You might see programs code with a lot of changed methods. This is the way they have achieved it, right? So just now we have 2 lines of code which draws a div for us, right? Any questions? Okay, so we have achieved a lot today about object oriented JavaScript. Now the fun part, and the fun part is, you have done carousel in your JavaScript course, right? So somebody so kind has written carousels for you. There used to be a lot of JavaScript libraries using jQuery to create carousels. One of them is Glide.js. If we go to Google and Glide.js. So Glide.js is a JavaScript library, just like we created a library for creating divs, absolutely positional divs. Somebody has created a very comprehensive library for carousels like these, for example, right? So how to get started? There is documentation. For example, I have created this library, and I will let you know that you have to create first run this div6, then this, then this, and this, and it will run. And I also have to specify the markup. So I will have to specify that you need to have div id is equal to wrapper 1 or 2 in your code. Similarly, they will let you know get started. If you click on get started and then click on setup, here it lets you know how to use Glide.js, so you can go through it yourself. This is the link to CSS styles, but here again, if I glide.js cdn, so we can have direct access to all the files I need. So here I will let you know that there is a file called glide.min.js. Okay, I'll copy it. I will create a new file and call it for example glide.html, and here in the bottom I will add a script tag src equals this, which I copied from there. This is the first file. The second file is core.css and theme.css. So these are two CSS files. Okay, these are also important. I will link them in the head section. Link href equals this. This is the core CSS, and what is this? Rel is equal to style sheet. And another one is this, the theme.css. Copy, link href equals this, rel is equal to style sheet this. Okay, so we have added two CSS files from there and one JavaScript file from here. The next thing is we need to have our own JavaScript script also. So I will create another file, new file, it is glide.js, or any file, it can be any name, and we will refer it here below the right, and save. Okay, we will go back to the documentation. Each library has its own documentation. So for example, this is the structure. It shows we need, just like we have the wrappers. Let me just zoom in 10. Just like we had the wrapper 1 and 2 divs in our application, here it should lets you write the same exact markup. I mean, it should be the same, like the class is glide and then all of this. So what we will do is just copy exactly it like this and paste it where? The glide.html inside the body here. Paste it here. So the class is glide, then the tray and slides has 0, 1, 2, right? Save. Now if we further come down in the documentation, it says the start and end directions, and here we have the arrows control, previous and next. So for example, I will just copy these and add it to the markup before the closing div of glide, this here. So this is next and previous. So we have just copied code from their documentation and added it here. Now you can see the glide __ slides has these three slides, 0, 1, 2. I already have a folder for images, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images. So let me use those images. img src equals images .1.png and closing image. This is fine, and let me just quickly copy and paste these so that one, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe there are 2 more, 6, 7, 8. Okay, just like you used to have your own carousel items, here we have carousel items too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now if I just preview the glide.html, let me just control 0 it. So these are actually buttons. Let us give you can style your own CSS, add your own CSS also. So let us add glide.css also, so that we can write some custom. Sorry, it got it inside the images. We need it inside on the root. Glide.css. Here we will write our own CSS, and first thing is we need to link it. After the link, href equals dot glide dot css, and rel is equal to style sheet and the closing div. This is just the setup. Actually all the functionality for the carousel is already there in that library, which we are including here in JavaScript, this one. Okay, so now we can write our own CSS. If you see, there is this dot glide, so we can add some width into it, maybe dot glide max dash width equals 500 pixels, and margin dash left auto, margin dash right auto. What will this do? So that it is in the center of the page. And if we specify this style also inside image, so it is 100% with 100%. And height auto. So hopefully there will be some changes. So here is the carousel now. If you see, there are next and previous buttons. If you click on it, is it not working or what? Probably.
Buttons are behind the image.
Menus, inspector, right, or do we have just one image? So we will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 controls. Not done. Maybe we have messed up some of the okay. Oh, we are missing one important thing. We need to write one small JavaScript in this custom file we have created, glide.js, which we are not doing. This is good thing we forgot it. So as I said, you can take it like this. We have created the class, we have added the classes, but we have not initialized it. We have not created the objects from it. That's the main point I missed. So what's that going to be? We will go back to the documentation. This is blessing in disguise, guys, I should say. And this is, even in the documentation you will always see something like initialization or something like this. So here it says you have to just run this new glide, and what's the glide dot mount, and you can see, we'll just copy this line, move it to glide.js. Here I will just paste it here. So now you can see what glide, even G is capital, means this will create an object for us, and this is being passed into it as a constructor. I mean, there should be a constructor in it. If you go to the source code of this library, there will be something like what we did today. So dot glide, now this constructor has been run, but immediately there is dot mount function also. Maybe there are other like this because that is chaining, but this will run our carousel for us. So if I go back to this, now it is working fine. Even everything is tested. We don't need to write even a single line of code, exactly just this new glide dot mount. Now one of the questions at the start of our lecture was, what is the advantage of object oriented JavaScript or program? So that's the advantage. Just in one line of code you have a lot of functionality, and you can have other carousels on the page also if you specify other stuff, and you will just need to change this class which is being passed into it. And there are hundreds and tons of libraries out there. You can just Google it, download it, or just link it like we have. You will get accordions, carousel, you name it. You don't need to write a single line of code for all these stuff, and nobody writes. For example, if I start redoing this carousel here, so it has been tested already by the community. Even different events for mobile, all of them have been incorporated. Maybe we are not able to achieve it. You can just improve it, maybe, if you consider it. It has some shortcomings or weaknesses or bugs, but more or less you will use such libraries, and they have been built by the programming skills we learned today mostly.
You need to know the behind the scenes things.
I mean, if I just need a carousel like this, for example, so I will just download a library and use it in my code. That's it. I will not reinvent the wheel. So hopefully today's lecture was helpful, and see you next time. Thank you very much.